Good morning, friends. Something about chopping a sunflower in half with a machete is very therapeutic. Welcome to my garden. If you are new here, we're going to be doing some direct seed sowing today, as well as some chaos gardening. Let's get started. Truthfully, I have been out here working my butt off, and I'm so pleased with the results so far because look, my garden is looking a lot more presentable. I'm feeling very positive and optimistic, unlike I was a few weeks ago. I don't know if this is a new trend, but I'm pretty sure it's a new trend, at least to me. There's a trend in the gardening world called chaos gardening. I love the idea of this because it makes certain crops just make more sense as far as like how you're sowing the seeds, especially for flowers. So that is what I'm doing today for my 2 flower beds. This one right here, and then this one back here. I grabbed all my flower seed packets and accidentally a candy roaster seed packet. What I'm gonna do is just mix them all together and just sprinkle them all over the place. Not a care in the world. This is a bachelor's button, purple cone flower, calendula, cosmos, nasturtium, all mixed up. I'm just going to toss all of these all around the garden beds and then just sprinkle them in, mix them in a little bit, and hope for the best. I also have a mix of sunflowers, so I'm just going to pour, like, I don't even know, maybe 30 sunflowers in here. Who knows? You know, just not gonna worry about it. Sprinkle them all over the surface. At the very least, we should have some sunflowers and just cover them. I want the bed to be absolutely loaded with flowers, like just densely loaded, to where when you walk through, you're like, wow, these are just like flowers hitting you in the face. Last spring, it just didn't work out, so this time I'm just like, you know what, I'm gonna put a million seeds in here and just see what happens. That's chaos gardening for you. If you saw my last video, then you'll know I am putting about half the garden to rest until probably September, and focusing on only the manageable part of the garden. Because for some reason, ever since I've started this garden, there have been some beds that are just so much more prone to grass in the summertime, and then other ones, they're pretty manageable. What I'm doing is getting all of my like big raised beds ready, and I'm going to make sure I'm planting out all of my winter squash on my cattle panel arches today. I had already started this in my last video. I planted some of the winter luxury pumpkins and the butternut, but I have a few more winter squash, so I want to get started now. So I've just been saving the cardboard that I get from like anything at the house, and I'm laying the cardboard down to act as a weed barrier to help smother the light from the grass. So I don't typically always pull the weeds before putting the cardboard down. Sometimes, like with one of my big beds, those 2 back there, I didn't even pull the weeds. I just put cardboard on top. Yesterday, I pulled some of the weeds in that bed because it was so overgrown. It was like very thick, and it would have made it so that the cardboard was like kind of popping up. So I pulled the weeds before putting the cardboard down today. And what I'm going to do next is get a whole bunch of mulch on top, followed by some mushroom compost. And then I'm just going to directly seed sow on top of that, because the cardboard will break down rather quickly while also still maintaining its purpose to smother the light from the weeds that you don't want in there, like the grass or any other type of weeds that you find are prevalent in your raised garden beds. It's not always a perfect solution. It's something you have to continue to maintain, but it definitely is very, very effective. If you want to do some type of like organic method, save all your cardboard. I have been getting real good at shoveling wheelbarrows of mulch by now. Yesterday I think I did like 10 in all, mulch and mushroom compost to get some of the garden preparation going for the fall. Once everything's in place, it's like a few months of relaxing and just tending to the garden, as opposed to like the really intense physical part of it, which is getting the beds ready. Compost. I probably look like the biggest sweaty mess with mascara like dripping down my face right now, but I did it. My main concern is winter squash. This is like a really good window to get those types of things started. If you are not a Florida gardener, or if you are a new Florida gardener, there are some things to know about gardening in Florida. Our seasons are definitely not like other people's seasons. We can pretty much garden year-round. This is indeed a subtropical environment, so we're not going to get, hard freezes and things like that where we would need to stop growing at specific times like other places in the country or the world. The fall is certainly like our second spring. In fact, I think that it's actually better than spring, because as soon as like the prime of fall comes and goes, we're then greeted with like a very, very mild winter, which would probably be similar to other people's actual fall. This is the time to start thinking ahead of what type of squash or sensitive crops you're going to start planting, definitely by September. And if you want to get a good harvest of winter squash or pumpkins started, this is the time in July, because you have roughly 100 days or so from today from seed to harvest to get pumpkins ready for, Thanksgiving or Halloween or anything like that. So one of my goals is to definitely get a good pumpkin patch underway so that my kids can pick their own pumpkins. I've said this for a few seasons now, and it just hasn't worked out, but a girl can keep on dreaming. A little bit of a breeze just started, and oh my gosh, that feels amazing. Okay, so what I am planting in this bed behind me is the candy roaster squash. I did grow candy roaster squash with some success in the spring before the bug pressure really started to just close in on it. I will say this plant was very resilient to bug pressure and heat in comparison to some of the other winter squash I grew, so definitely keep that in mind. Goal here, of course, is to get these candy roaster squash to go up and above the cattle panel arches, which they did do this last spring, but I want it to be even better this time around. Next, I'm doing the spaghetti squash, which I've tried to grow a few times here and it just hasn't worked out yet. I'm gonna be planting it on this part of my cattle panel arch, and then it's gonna meet a butternut squash. So I hope that we don't have any butternut spaghetti squash cross-pollinating, creating a crazy concoction of squash, but that could also be pretty good. I'm planting extra because it's so hot that I'm worried about the germination. We're here at my double cattle panel arch, which did so great in the spring. This was like the best winter squash plant out of my whole garden. It gets really, really full sun here, and I don't know why. It's just the Cinderella pumpkins, which I have right here, they just thrived. I will say, if you are looking for like a pumpkin plant that can withstand the heat as well and be more durable to like Florida temperatures or just like very, very hot climates, the Cinderella pumpkin, I got it from M.I. Gardener, did amazing. They were still looking really green and lush where everything else would be all like just shriveled up and not doing well. I will say I planted the Cinderella pumpkin just right on the edge of the cattle panel arch, and I think I just did like a layer of mulch followed by a layer of mushroom compost and then mulch on top of that. So it was really just nothing fancy at all. I just did it directly into the ground. All of my squash that goes directly in the ground is like just in heaven. They do awesome. But I'm going to plant some new squash right here. I got some compost laid down yesterday. So I've got the small sugar pie pumpkins. I would love to grow enough sugar pie pumpkins that I can make pumpkin pie, so that I can make pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving and just like through the whole holiday fall season. That would be a dream. So that's my goal right now. So I'm just gonna load it up right here. It is time to harvest my Cinderella pumpkins. That was pretty easy with this machete. Might have been a little overkill. These you can actually eat as well, but they're also decorative. The pumpkin in Cinderella was, the illustration was modeled after this particular pumpkin. So I know it has like a more scientifically correct name, but they also call it Cinderella pumpkin. So, you know, does it remind you of that little Cinderella carriage? I have other ones to harvest too. Perfect. This one is like my biggest, best one so far for my Cinderella pumpkins. I'm definitely growing these next year. Okay, I'm at my banana / papaya natural shade area. If you have been a current subscriber, then you know I have been attempting to create like a natural canopy of shade in my garden. And I thought this was honestly going to take like months and months, if not like a year for it to start creating like a canopy shade area. And I planted all of these the banana trees in May with you guys. They have totally taken off. This is like a really great area. And the papaya, I don't remember where I planted these, and now they're, you know, probably about 8 feet tall. So it's a good place for me to talk about my seeds that I've been wanting to get started. We have sprouts for almost everything. Okay, so this is the Sheboygan. We've got the San Marzano, the Tiffin Mennonite, the Yellow Plum, Cherokee Purple, Amish Paste, Pineapple, Gold Medal, Orange Currant, and Yellow Stuffer. And I think we have at least one of each that have started to sprout. As you can see, they're a little thirsty. They need some water. In like a week or so, I'm gonna plant out the tomato starts. I don't wait for them to be significant in size. I just wait for them to be a little bit durable enough to handle the transplant. So just probably like just a few weeks old. I also have my pepper garden, which this round is doing really, really well. The ones that have sprouted are the Tam jalapenos, sweet banana. We've got Serrano, Corno de Toro, Tabasco, the Cubanelle, Shishito, and the Peppercini have all sprouted. The long jalapeno, poblano, and the Sugar Rush have not. I'm not surprised because those three are older seeds that I had harvested myself. And peppers, I will say, if they're not germinating, just get new seeds, because I've found that they're sensitive to age, not all the time, but most of the time, that and carrots. But there are plenty of other things that are not sensitive to age as far as seeds. They won't germinate, they won't have a high success rate if the seed pack's old. We've got some good sprouts going for those. Again, I will let these grow for another week or so before starting to plant those out. I'm trying to decide if I want to plant them all in pots or if I want to plant them in my direct in-ground garden rows over there. The benefit of planting them in pots is that it's really easy to overwinter them that way, where you can chop them basically down to nothing and then just keep the actual plants alive through the winter in like a mildly sunny area, away from any frost or anything like that. And then by the time spring comes around, they're ready to just go back to work. So I'm considering whether or not I should start them in pots or in the actual garden. Regardless, I want to get a pepper garden going no matter what. The next video, I'll probably be planting these out. They're just not ready yet. They need like another week or so. In the beginning of the video, you saw me chopping down all of the sunflower wall from the spring. So I plan to get that started again here once I get some more cleaning up done. My whole, tomato area is ready for those transplants as soon as the transplants are ready. So I feel overall like way more positive than I was a few weeks ago. I felt like I had this gigantic project that I just couldn't tackle, but little by little, I've been making myself come out here for about an hour or so, like every other day, and sure enough, I'm just getting things done, which feels really great. If you didn't watch one of my last videos, I'm putting a tarp over the really unruly beds until September because the beds that are stressing me out right now, I just don't have time for it. I cannot continue to manage unmanageable beds in the summertime. So we're putting them to rest until the season gets to be a little bit more manageable for those really unruly beds. Thank you guys for watching, and if you would like to subscribe so you don't miss out on my chaos garden, flower garden, and see how my winter squash comes to hopeful fruition, definitely hit the subscribe button. My name is Shelby again, and until next week, bye.